Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I've posted a video. I've got a watch today that I picked up a few weeks ago. Just been wearing it a little bit and wanted to make a video on it. It is an Orient Kamasu. These watches have been out for probably 3 or 4 years now. I believe they got released back in 2018 or 2019. Part of the Orient Mako Ray series of watches, and Orient came out with these ones and really did some upgrades that I really wasn't aware of until I got this watch. So the biggest ones are going to be the sapphire crystal. The old watches, of course, just had mineral crystals. They were always kind of around that $200 price point. Definitely a entry-level diver, and pretty popular with the entry-level divers segment, and for good reason. I've always I've never picked one up just because I felt there were better options out there, ISO certified divers, things like that. But then I finally saw the dial color of this one, and I just had to try it out. So before we get into anything, comes in just a standard Orient box, nothing too special there. Get this out of the way, and then just your standard box there. This one does not have the reference number anywhere, but I can put it in the description. But this watch is pretty easy to find. So retail on these guys usually goes for anywhere from $220 to $250, depending on where you get it. I'll push the box out of the way for now. So yeah, here's the watch. Now this one has obviously a Jubilee style bracelet on here from Strap Code. Of course, they don't call it that anymore for legal reasons. I think they call it the J style, something like that. Comes on a pretty standard Orient bracelet. Nothing too impressive. I've got these keepers on here because these have hollow end links. Bracelet's nothing too special. Pretty standard. Stamped clasp, all that good stuff. Pretty entry level. They have the laser etching Orient logo on there, which it's actually not too bad on this sample. Some of the Orient clasp, their logo was pretty bad. So okay, push pins, but I think most people are going to take it off and upgrade to strap code or something similar. So this version of the Kamasu, this is the third iteration of, I believe it's the Mako, but correct me if I'm wrong. But they call this the Kamasu, and this iteration of it has the round hour markers as opposed to the dashes that are on the regular version, and slightly aged Lume on there. So the other thing that really drew my attention to this watch was the applied indices. I thought that was a pretty big step up. This watch occupies a pretty tough market, especially since right now there are so many micro brands. There's watches coming from China, AliExpress watches that offer a lot of bang for your buck. A lot of them have Seiko NH35 movements, hacking, hand winding. A lot of them have sapphire crystals. A lot of them have ceramic bezel inserts. So this watch is pretty steep, has some pretty steep competition, but I think it does very well. So as you can see, applied indices. This is, I believe, an aluminum bezel insert, but it does have some very thick paint on it, and it's also has some very glossy paint as well, which I like. And aluminum bezel inserts don't bother me too much. Ceramic, of course, is nice, but this is done very well. They have a nice heavy application of paint, and it's also glossy. It kind of gives off that look of ceramic, of course, without the cost. So, first thing I'll go over is the bracelet. So this is a definite must add on in my opinion. You get a fully milled clasp, solid end lengths, of course, screws on the bracelet makes it very easy to size. Even the Jubilee style, which is a little trickier, pretty easy to size with this. You get 6 micro adjust, and the end lengths fit okay. As you can see, they're not perfect. There's a little bit of an edge there, but overall, pretty good, especially for the price point of the watch and the cost of the bracelet upgrade. Bezel action on this, very good, very easy to turn. Not really any back play, pretty surprising for the price point, but again, I think Orient knows what they're up against in terms of the competition for this watch. Everything lines up very nicely. As you can see, the indices, minute markers, everything lines up very nicely on this watch. The drawbacks, some of the things I don't care for. First, I will show the case back. It is just a laser etched case back. It's the Orient Dolphin logo, the 2 dolphins swimming in a circle. Nothing too spectacular there. It's I would almost rather them just leave it blank. Personally, the laser etching brings this watch down a little bit, in my opinion, but that's okay. It's not a huge deal. But as you can see, has the Epson logo, water resist, 200 meters. This watch says 20 bar, just says water resist because this is not an ISO certified diver. And as you can see, it's also made in Japan. Excuse me, the movement is made in Japan. I believe the watch is cased elsewhere. I don't know, probably Malaysia, somewhere like that. Overall, though, very solid watch for around $220. Other complaints, the crown, and this is why I've always avoided these series of watches. Now, this is a hacking hand winding movement from Orient, an in-house movement, as always. So you can wind the watch. Winds very smoothly. Nothing wrong with that. Crown, though, very undersized. See, it's laser etched, and it's not the easiest to grab, and the crown guards come out too far, so it's not the easiest crown to use. It's not too bad screwing out, but screwing in is not that easy. And I'll be honest, this is not the first Orient I've noticed this with, and it's just something you tend to deal with on entry-level divers, things like that. There's also not very many threads, so for comparison, I'll take off my Seiko Tuna, my Marine Master here. This watch, when you unthread it, probably has, I don't know, 3 or 4 rotations before it pops out, noticeable click out, and then it threads in very easy. But again, there's quite a bit of travel. It takes quite a bit to screw this down. Of course, this watch is in a totally different price range, but still, to me, that's something important that a lot of entry-level watches don't get, and that's one thing you do get when you step up to something like this. So let me set that off to the side. So yeah, not a big fan of the crown, not a big fan of the crown guards. The crown to me should be quite a bit bigger than this. It's pretty small, and the crown guards also, they do a good job of protecting the crown, but because of that, it doesn't make it very easy to get at. End of the world. For some people, probably not. For me, I'm not a big fan of that. I put these watches in a rotation, so I do have to set the time on them quite a bit. So if I have to dig with the crown, I'm not a big fan of that. Other than that, though, it is a hacking hand winding movement. See, as you pull the crown out, it does hack. Change the time on it. Um, Seems to be very accurate. Haven't had any issues. I've always had very good luck with Orient movements. I've always found that to be very accurate. One big plus I will say of this watch, let me get the crown screwed in. One big plus I will say that this has an edge over previous Orients I've had. I have a love-hate relationship with Orient. They do some things so well. Dials, the detail on the dials. The cases have always, to me, been a little plain. My Orient Triton, the original one, which was a JIS certified diver, that was a great watch. Had a very boring case on it. Nothing special in the finishing. This one has just a straight side case. However, it has some very nice brushing on there, as you can see, both sides, and then some nice edges there, and it's brushed on top with some polish right on the edge there, which is very nice. Crown, or the bezel, excuse me, is nice and tall, so it's easy to grab, so it's very easy to manipulate this. Some dive watches do not have bezels that are very easy to turn, to rotate, but this one does a very good job. Little thick. Let me pull up the dimensions here. I'm not going to measure it. Anybody can look up all the dimensions. It's a 41 millimeter watch, and just under 42, but I would say it wears more like a 41. It's pretty, wears very nicely. I'll put it on my wrist here in a second. Just under 47, lug tip to lug tip again. Pretty compact overall. It is almost 13 millimeters thick. So nothing crazy, but it does sit up a little higher than I care for personally. But for this style watch, obviously something like the Tuna I have is completely different, but that's definitely a different style of watch. So let me put it on my wrist here. Wears very nice. It's very comfortable. Not a big fan of the. I shouldn't say I'm not a fan, but the oyster style Jubilee style bracelet does tend to catch arm hairs, things like that. So sometimes that can be a little uncomfortable. I hope I didn't just say oyster bracelet this whole time. I'm going to have people yelling at me. It is a Jubilee bracelet. So there it is on wrist. I have about a 7¼ inch wrist, and it wears very nicely. This is going to be a pretty popular watch for most people in terms of size, under 42 millimeters. So, and a fairly short lug to lug, pretty average for the size, just under 47. So there it is. It sits up a little higher than I personally care for a watch of this size, but overall, not bad at all. That's not really a complaint, just more of a personal preference. Beyond that, I think that's about all with this watch. I'm not sure if this one will stay in the collection or rotation or not. I have plenty of other divers that I wear. Of course, the main attraction for me on this one was the dial color. It is a kind of a greenish blue, maybe a turquoise, and it just fades into black. And it is very, very pretty. I will say in pictures it looked a little more green. In person, it's a little more how it looks on camera, and it's more of a turquoise, but I have struggled to see certain colors. I'm somewhat colorblind, so don't take my word for too much. But it does look a little different than some of the pictures, but it is beautiful. Let's do a Lume shot here. It's typical Orient Lume. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either. As you can see here, it's glowing very well. It's been under these LED lights, so it's glowing very well. It does fade, but the Lume does stay on there. I'll pull in my Tuna here. Looks pretty similar. I will say the Tuna lasts a lot longer. Of course, again, a completely different price range, so I'm not going to compare that. Overall, very good for the money. Put these back on. Yeah, so again, like I said, don't know if this one will stay in the rotation or not, but I would definitely recommend it, especially for the price. It does have some stiff competition, but of course, with this, you get more brand recognition. Orient's been around for a very long time. They have some great original designs. And this watch itself, the Kamasu, it's a reiteration of the Mako. Again, Orient does not give these watches these names. The watch community comes up with them. So overall, I would say this would be a definite pick over a lot of the micro brands that are in this price range. Some of the, AliExpress, the homage watches, things like that. Just because of the originality of it. It's its own watch, has its own design, and it really does give you a lot for the price point. So that's it for the Orient Kamasu. Thank you for watching. I'm going to have some more videos coming up. I have quite a few more watches to review, so be looking out for those. Thank you.